Welcome to the John Cady podcast. I'm John Cady, U.S. Navy retired, former minister, man who's been around, seen a lot of things. This episode, I'm going to be a little bit more serious because this piggybacks on some YouTube shorts I've shared earlier, and plus other commentary and news that's been all over the internet concerning gospel artists who have fallen from grace. I'm not going to get into the specifics on those. You can go on the internet and find, just about any scandal that's going on. But what I'm going to talk about is why it is so devastating when somebody who professes Christianity, professes to be in the ministry in some form or fashion, finds themselves in a really bad situation where they've even run afoul of the law, much less doing things that go against Scripture. Why is it that the public trust is greatly damaged more than when a secular politician or secular entertainer has his or her fall from grace? And basically it comes down to this. When a person claims to be a man or woman of God, claiming to be a minister, claiming to be a gospel artist, that individual is automatically placed on a much higher pedestal, or I should say a much higher standard. We have much higher expectations because even people who rarely go to church at all, and even to the point where they claim to be atheists, understand that much, that the moment you tack the word Christian on there, they expect a standard of conduct that is different from the rest of the world, and those standards are often higher than the rest of the world. A secular politician, for example, they could get embroiled in one scandal after another, and even if they end up going to prison for it, the damage is not near as bad because in some cases we knew them to be rather shady characters from the get-go. Same with some of the entertainers. Some entertainers, their nonsense goes before them, and we know it's like that they're dirty. So when they get in trouble, it's like we're not even surprised that so-and-so got involved in drugs or got involved with a person outside the spouse or even more nefarious activities. But when that individual takes on the mantle of being part of the ministry and they do things in secret that they condemn from the pulpit or condemn from their public platform, be it the stage, be it media like this, then it creates the question, is this person a hypocrite? Say, for example, you had a megachurch pastor almost 20 years ago condemn drugs, condemn same-sex behavior from the pulpit, but yet he was caught doing the very things in private that he condemned in public. So was it the fact that he did those things that brought about his downfall, or was it the hypocrisy of it all that brought about his downfall? I'm inclined to believe that it's the hypocrisy, because that person, in the eyes of many, was blowing smoke. For the lack of a better way to say it, they were blowing a smoke screen. It looked good, but once you get through all the smoke and you see them for who they really are, and it's just like in The Wizard of Oz, when you peel back the curtain and you see the little man behind the controls, behind that big head that was talking, I am the great and powerful Oz. But yet when that curtain is pulled, what you see is a little scrawny dude who you could probably knock him down with a good gust of wind. And then when they get caught, as we've seen in recent events, instead of just looking everyone dead in the eye, admit they did wrong, admit that they've hurt people in the process, and addressing those individuals who were harmed, they instead try to shift it all themselves, make themselves out to be the victim. Oh, my record label has dropped me. Oh, a lot of these concerts are now going to have to be canceled. Why? Because you knew for a long time that there was some shady behavior going on. You had to have known. And when people call you out on it, whether it's the record label, whether it's the fans who bought your tickets, whether it's the church organizations who sponsored you and invited you to perform, no, you don't get a pass on this. You don't get to try to make yourself out to be the victim. There's nothing worse, whether it's in any walk of life, than to see somebody, once they get caught and they try to say, well, so-and-so did this, this to me, try to come up with an excuse for bad behavior. No, you were willing to turn a blind eye to some stuff that was going on. And because you turned a blind eye, it eventually came back and bit everybody in the backside. The irony of it is, in the light of this particular scandal, in the DC Talk song, What If I Stumble? The opening monologue is that the biggest cause of atheism today is Christians. They worship God with their lips, but deny Him by their lifestyle, and that is what an unbelieving world finds unbelievable. And that's very true. I myself had to go through this. This is why I say that I am a former minister. I was involved in a Pentecostal-styled, non-denominational church for almost 17 years. I was a licensed minister for 12 of those years. But as the years passed and I became more a part of the inner circle, I began to see things for what they really were. I began to find out more about the church's history and how the founder of that organization was rightly charged and convicted for some very serious crimes against minors, crimes that put him in prison, and that everyone tried to pretend it didn't exist, try to sweep everything under the rug. I was left with a crisis of conscience. I could have continued on with them. I could have continued on with them to this day, but it meant I would have had to go along with it. I would have had to turn a blind eye. And in all good conscience, at the end of the day, I have to answer to God for what happens, just like everyone else does. And between me and the Lord, I just couldn't live with myself continuing in this. So I was left with a very difficult choice in March of 2003, and that was when I walked away. Has it been easy since then? Absolutely not. And I'm not saying that my walk has been perfect. I've made some boneheaded decisions along the way. But at least I can go to bed at night with some integrity. This is John Cady. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, hit like or subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.